Okay, before we get into public input, we do have, hopefully, there's Bernie. Bernie Rotella, our grants manager, is here, as well as an engineer from Floyd Hatch McDonald. This is regarding the project going on at Fairmount Park, which hopefully we can get off the ground this year. So Bernie, the floor is all yours. Could you please use the mic if you could?
I'll just give a brief introduction and then I'll turn it over to Jeff Lapsack from Hatchmont McDonald on the preliminary design information for Fairmount Park. Just to set the stage here, we received a grant for $350,000 for some park improvements at Fairmount Park. They included a trail, a new bathroom, and some park amenities. And over the last year or so, we have been coming up with some concepts of what we would like to see, and I think we've got a preliminary design that the committee has agreed upon. So I'd like to have Jeff sort of give us an overview of what those improvements are going to be, how we're going to phase it out, and as soon as Jeff's set up here, then we'll proceed, and then we'll take any questions.
Jeff, if you do need some time, I can move on to public input. If you think you're just about ready, then we can. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Hatchmont, why did I say?
I'm Jeff Lapsack. I'm with Hatchmont McDonald, and tonight I'm just going to take about 10 minutes to give you an update on where the design for the improvements at Fairmount Park stand. I think I can use, I don't need the microphone. The project has three major objectives. The first one is to make sure that we have an accessible restroom for visitors to the park. The second objective is to provide accessible paths to all of the different activity centers in the park. And the third objective is to provide other amenities that the park needs that need to be upgraded, such as some of the play stations, to add some exercise stations, improve the signage so people know where the various activity centers are, to upgrade the landscaping to give the park a little bit more of a park feeling, and also to upgrade some of the benches in the park. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Fairmount Park, it's at the corner of Nash and Stieg, and it has 5 ball fields. It has a nice sort of walking track. It's not really a running track, but it's a place you can walk and exercise. Tennis courts, roller hockey courts, band shell, and other places for soccer fields on the at the park. But if you've gone to the park, you've noticed that some of the facilities are sort of run down and in need of an upgrade. So here's the current restroom at the park, and this is not ADA accessible. ADA is Americans with Disabilities Act. It means all of our public facilities have to be accessible for all different types of users. So we want to upgrade this restroom to make it in compliance with the ADA requirements. We also want to add those paths to get to the ball fields and other activity centers. So here is a picture from last summer, people going out to a softball game. You can see this person here carrying a cooler, but if the ground is spongy and wet, you know, it's not the easiest thing to get through the park to get to your fields to enjoy your sports. And then finally, one of the things I think is most interesting about the park It has some town heritage in it. This is the Stieg grave site right here. And that is located in the park right near the tennis courts. So you've got this interesting case of, I think there are 6 different grave sites located throughout the park. So that's what's up there now, and the project is meant to improve some of those things, and I apologize you can't see this a little bit better, but I'll try to highlight some of the key elements. The new restroom is going to go right next to the old one. The old restroom will be maintained and converted to a storage building. Is that right, Mike? So that building's going to be there. It's just going to, we'll take out the partitions and the restroom facilities and turn it into a storage shed for the town recreation department, and the new restroom will be right next to it, near the band shell. We're going to put in a series of paths that connect to all the ball fields. So whatever parking lot you're at, whether it's on Stieg Road or in the main parking lot or over here on this new road, you'll be able to use the paths to get to the ball fields. And that path will also form a nice big circle. So if you're out for some exercise, you can just, while your child or grandchild is playing their baseball game, you can take a walk and get a little exercise and enjoy the pond. And the other thing is the Veterans Memorial that's being planned in this area, so that'll be coordinated as that is in further development. So this master plan was developed last fall, and the town board looked at it and provided a lot of input. And we tweaked it based on that input, and this is the final result with this path system and new restroom and some other paths here in the eastern part of the park connecting to some of the activity centers. So here's a rendering of what the new restroom will look like. Here's the old one. Like I said, this will just be converted to a storage building. The new one will be in the same style. We're not going to do anything architecturally exotic. Probably the nicest thing about this, it'll have some interior lighting. These will be like a glass block, something that you can't really see through, but they'll let light into the structure. You'll have an opening here with a drinking fountain in the middle. So you have a protected access to the restroom. So that's what the new restroom will look like on the outside. The floor plan, basic improved restroom. The women's room will have 4 stalls. The men's room will have 2 stalls, 2 urinals. There'll be 2 sinks in each one. These have all been designed to be very low maintenance and vandal proof. That was one of the comments from the town board, was to try to make these things as durable as possible. So they'll be stainless steel and materials that won't be subject to a lot of risk of vandalism. And you have the ADA compliant stall. Thanks, buddy. That's one of the key things. The parks, the grant for this project, that's the primary objective, is to have accessible facilities. Here's an idea of what the inside would look like. This, I think, is the men's room side, so you see the sinks and a little bit of light coming in. So just a little more welcoming facility than the one that's currently there. Here's the actual plans for the park that are ready to go off to Parks now for approval. This has now been engineered. That master plan was conceptual. So these are the actual details of how those paths will be connected. So here we're going around the little skating pond area that's in the southwest part of the park. These blue dots are the accessible parking pads. So there will actually be asphalt pads for anybody who needs handicap parking. And at those places, you can go right onto the path. We'll put those inside the umpire's lot and on Stieg Road and up here on the main parking lot. You can get to those paths.
Can I ask a question?
Yep, that's perfect time. Open for questions.
What are the paths going to be made of?
The paths will be asphalt paths. They'll be 6 feet wide, and they'll be the construction of them will be relatively low impact. It will be about a 12-inch excavation with 8 inches of stone and 4 inches of asphalt.
What about the path itself?
The path is 6 foot wide, and the length of it is
It's also asphalt?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And one of the little delays we had was since we're putting those paths in the eastern part of the park going near those grave sites, we had to have the State Historic Preservation Office just take a look at the project and give us their approval, but we have that now. So I think the end result will be a park that everybody can use from, you know, age 2 to 100, and you can get around and you can have benches to sit on, and there'll be trees for some shade, and there'll be new playgrounds for our kids, and then we need to go to the restroom, that'll be there too. So we're looking forward to seeing it under construction. Any other questions?
How about winterization of the new restroom facility when, obviously, we're not going to keep that open in the winter? Is it going to be easy for our maintenance guys to, you know, drain the water and make sure pipes don't crack?
Yes, the plumbing and the electrical on that will all have the ability to be controlled and shut off for the winter time.
And then Bernie, where are we, is this, you're showing this for our approval tonight, or is this what the state has approved already?
This is approval for town board approval for tonight, if we are all in consensus, but this is the plan. Then we'll submit a finished plan to New York State Parks for approval, and then we can go to construction.
Some of our previous plans had a couple of phases in them. Is this all one phase now, or are we doing some of this in a couple of different phases?
Right now, we're showing the entire project, and I think, you know, how we want to handle that is up to the board.
We broke it up into a couple phases. We're going to do phase 1, which will be the ADA bathroom and the paths on the west side of the park. Phase 2 will be some more trails, and then the playground equipment, and then
Exercise?
Phase 2 is the paths on the east and the life cycle fitness.
Right.
So that was about a fourth of the total project cost.
But the whole thing is designed so that we can get approval once,
Right.
get that done. We do not have to spend the money if we choose not to.
That's correct.
And do you see us starting this year?
Yes.
I think definitely. I think the restroom could be started right away without disruption to the park, and then maybe the paths would be done later.
In the fall or
Fall or something after the.
Is the state going to approve it that quickly?
I am going to say that we'll have Jeff finish this off by next week, and I'm thinking within the next 3 months, if we can get a final design, we'll send it off to Parks, and hopefully over the summer, they can get back to us with approval. Right after Labor Day, then we can put a shovel in the ground. That's sort of the time frame that we're looking at.
Their documents say that they need 8
wanna
weeks.
wait after
What's expected there.
Season's over with.
Assuming we're going to bond to do this, how early would we have to do a bond? How early do we have to be ready to do that if we're going to be releasing something on September 1st?
I would say that if we're ready to go to construction, let's say October, or right after Labor Day, then we'll have to decide, we'll have to work with Mike on his schedule, making sure that, you know, it's not going to interfere with activities and that.
No, but in terms of bonding, we have to apply for a bond so many months ahead of time.
It's going to take about 2 months to actually get the funds.
So we can't award any contracts prior to getting that approval, right?
Correct.
So we really have to be thinking bonding about the time that we send in, get the process started.
Approve the bond authorization prior to any bids being awarded. The actual borrowing of the funds could be done at a later date, 30 days later, 60 days later. But no bids could be awarded until the bond authorization has been in place and the proper period has expired. There's probably going to be a 30-day permissive referendum time period or a 20-day estoppel period. I'm not sure which. But there is going to be a time period that expires before any bid can be awarded.
So you're talking June or July?
I would say the board would have to probably do some kind of authorization sometime by August 1st would be the latest.
August 1st.
If you're going to be awarding bids around Labor Day, you need a 30-day period once the bond is approved and when the board can actually award bids. The minimum 30-day period.
So
waiting for.
So if things are moving along as fast as you think they might be, then probably sometime in the end of June, we gotta be taking up the issue of bonding as well.
Okay.
Bernie, how's the grant reimbursement process? Do they just give us 50% of the money into our town checking account, or do we have to spend the money and then turn in for reimbursements?
It is a reimbursement, it's 50 cents on the dollar, so for every dollar we spend, we get 50 cents back. I'll put in reimbursement request as we spend the money, so hopefully within the 30 to 45 day period, we'll get our reimbursement. That's the quick part of it, really.
And do you assist us with the reimbursement part, or does the Recreation Department have to do that?
We'll do that. We'll administrate it.
Okay.
Yes.
Your restrooms, by the concession stand,
Yes, there is.
are we doing anything with those?
Not this year. We've got, the grant money that we got was for this restroom only. So
We-
hopefully we put another request for another one. We did put in the request for 2 originally, but we were only awarded the 1.
But that one is way the other, west
Yes,
side of the park.
correct.
Right. Shirley, it goes back actually before I was here, but the actual request was to do 2 at the time, to have both of them upgraded. The actual approval came through and it was only for 1, so we've been working with 1 in the plans. We had to choose one or the other, or pick something in the middle, and we chose to pick this place because that's, we think, where the most people are. Sharon?
Is this a 2 or 3-year project? Because it doesn't sound like it's gonna really get started until September.
It's been about 5 years so far. It takes a while. But once it gets moving, it won't be all that long. It'll be a firm that's going to be doing the work, and it should move right along. We would prefer not to be digging up and doing the paths during the summer when baseball games and that kind of thing are going on. We'd rather do that in the fall or spring. For just the one little spot where the restroom's going to be, that could be almost any time. That won't get in the way very much.
So I guess the question, the hatch mount, when will the new bathroom be operational? Spring of 2016?
I think it'll definitely be spring of 2016 and even later this year. If we get that approval from Parks and get a good contractor out there in the late summer and early fall.
Get it operational just...
What's the closing date of the park?
It doesn't close.
It doesn't, okay.
But the bathroom will be as we get close to freezing.
Probably in late October.
So it might be questionable whether or not it's actually used this year, but it'll be constructed.
Okay. Any other questions? Jeff and Bernie, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thanks for all your help on the design. Thank you.
We probably want to bring this up when we get to motions to make sure that it's approved, Bob.
Yep.
We're out to public input. Brian, do we have any speakers? Julie?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I just wanted to give everybody an update. I'm not sure who's aware or not, but Monica Dagler and I traveled to Albany this past week on Monday. And we wanted to go there to get support for the home rule. The legislation introduced by Assemblyman Soretto is A6034. And we went there to explain to his peers and also the Senate why home rule, why we requested home rule, and the position. So basically we went to several members of the Assembly and a couple of the Senate, and we shared the information that Matrix presented in terms of the water table heights, the soil types here, the septic sewer situation, to get them to understand why we were asking for this home rule and why we didn't feel it was acceptable to use biosolids. Several of the members that we presented to asked for a copy of the Matrix report, so I'm glad that was on the website and it's very handy. We also have case law, and we shared that to support home rule. And at this point, after the visit, we're just waiting for a senator to pick it up on the Senate side. As I said, the bill number is A6034, And we'll be watching it pretty closely just to try and get support again for the town's decision to use home rule for the biosolids ordinance. So I didn't know if anybody had any questions or anything like that, but...
I had a question. Thanks for your due diligence. I heard on, I don't know what TV station it was, but Wilson, I heard they vote in favor of a ban of equate.
You know what? I have not actually seen the...
I caught a glimpse of it. I was walking through the kitchen and I heard it, but
They did. I don't know that the ordinance is a ban, but I know that when we did our due diligence here in Wheatfield, that there were environmental issues, like I just mentioned, the soil type, the water table heights. There in Wilson, there were also environmental concerns, specifically the lake, the harbor, and then the tributaries running into the lake. So there were environmental concerns on why they adopted their ordinance, and yes, they did, but I don't know if it was a ban or just stricter rules. I thought it was a ban, though.
Because I was digging through Wilson's website, and then in February, I don't have the date, but in February, they had their home rule legislation.
Yeah.
They had a resolution by Mr. Yastrzemski and Mr. Clark to adopt home rule, and they sent it out to Jane Corwin, their assemblywoman, and Senator Robert Ort. So,
and it was in the Lockport Sun and Union Journal this week that they did adopt this resolution, the home rule. And when we were in Albany, we did meet personally with Assemblywoman Corwin, and we did let her know that it went through. So she said that she'd be reaching out to the powers that be in Wilson, just to make sure everything was buttoned up. So, again, these are environmental concerns specific to certain localities. There may be localities within New York State that it's acceptable for biosolids. I personally have not researched outside this area, but here, soil type, groundwater tables, our septic sewer situation in Wilson, the proximity to the lake, the tributaries that run into the lake, their soil types. So, again, the home rule, it's specific. We're just saying here in our community, it's not acceptable to use them because of these environmental issues. So, anything else?
I just want to comment for a minute, and first of all, while we think that it is nice and helpful to have some additional home rule legislation, we also believe that the town of Wheatfield has authority to enact the law it did without specific further authorization from the state. We think that the state that the town's law was properly enacted and does not really require additional state authorization.
And we didn't go to Albany because we thought that it wasn't lawful. We just wanted to share the reason that this went forward, and obviously it's been publicized what's going on here. So, and we went of our own accord. Nobody here asked us to. We just decided that we would like to go, and we arranged it through the offices in Albany. We made our own phone calls, and we got appointments set up. So this was not an official trip or anything like that, but we just wanted people to know what was going on in Wheatfield and why we're so compelled to keep bringing this issue to the forefront. So,
just curious, did they seem to know about it? Were they aware of the problem and the situation we have here?
Yes.
They were aware of it. Okay.
We met with more members of the Assembly than we did in the Senate. Obviously, there's more Assembly people than there are senators. But yes, they were aware of it.
Okay.
And and also remember that the issue is going on in Marilla and West Seneca.
Sure.
So there's a lot of talk about this in Western New York. And once we explained about the soil and the water tables, it seemed to drive it home for them. And there seemed to be, in general, support for our position on this, and that why we need, it would be nice if we had additional support, even though everything that we did was appropriate. But we just wanted to let people know. We met with people from here, Western New York, all the way downstate. And downstate we did have support as well.
Good job. Thank you.
Right, so thank you.
Of interest, Julie, when we get to my turn to speak a little later, I did receive letters from Senator Ort today, and I'll explain that later as we get there. Anybody else, Brian? Okay, and nobody wants to speak on any subject at this time? Dave?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Dave Gottfried from the county. Some updates you've probably seen in the paper, maybe that our final tower for our radio system, our 911 system, now has all the hardware on there. The last two microwave dishes were put up last week, which means we can start firing up that system, testing our coverage. It won't be completely tested until we get the leaves on the trees, to make sure we get the proper coverage of that radio system, but at least we have the hardware in place to do that, which is good news. The other one is our air base out there. You may have seen write-ups that the NIMAC group, the Niagara Military Affairs Council, is putting out a lot of marketing material for what we're now calling Joint Base Niagara, because it does house more than the 914th and 107th. There's several other military units there. So we're trying to make the picture that this base is more than just a couple, that it is a Joint Base Niagara. In doing so, on March the 12th, I joined two of the past commanders to go to a trip to Washington, specifically to speak to the Customs and Border Patrol to see if we could attract them to our base. We'd like to get as many anchors on that base, military units, as we can, and CBP was certainly the good candidate. They had $15 million allocated for them to build a regional center. That funding has not come true. We're number 5 on the list of projects for Customs and Border Patrol. We don't see that money coming in the near term, the $15 million, which is a little disheartening. However, with the other things that the Principi group had identified as potentials for this base, the fueling system, remember we had tankers at one time. That fueling system is still there. It won't take much to put it back in order. So what we're looking at now is to kind of shift gears from the Border Patrol and try to get a new mission back, which is tankers, the new tankers, the KC-46s, which are going to be delivered to the Air Force in a year or so. We'd like to get that back. We have a great asset in that fueling system, so we're going to promote that, kind of switch gears from the Border Patrol and bring a full flying mission back to that base. And obviously the simulator, the C-130 simulator is coming to that base. The RPA mission, of course, that's well on its way. We're going to work on others, but we think we have a good chance because the Air Force has said that the tanker mission and moving those aircraft is going to happen in the near future. So we're trying to make ourselves number 1. The last update I have from NORA, the Niagara Orleans Regional Alliance, who's working on the broadband across the 2 counties, has just approved another initiative on the request of Senator Ort's office, asked us to look at our 2 counties and the issues we're having with electronic waste, televisions primarily. It's become a very critical issue. Municipalities are paying money now to have that picked up. It's not even getting picked up. The piles are literally getting bigger and bigger. So with the support of not only the Senator's office, but Assemblywoman Corwin, Assemblyman Soretto, and Assemblyman Hawley in Orleans County, NORA will take on the initiative to, number 1, try to bring a low-cost routine collection spot back in both of our counties. We're working with the Niagara County environmental expert, Don Kim, who has been able to negotiate a lower price for e-waste collection. We hope to drive that to 0 and reestablish a lot of the collection sites across both of the counties now that we have 2 counties to come together as one. The second part of that, obviously, is the fight with Albany, as we always have, to push back on the regs and all of the other parameters that have caused this whole issue. It all has to do with the OEMs, the people that make the TVs. You sell one, you bring one back. However, according to the DEC regulations, they have a limit. They reached that limit 2012 in September. 2013, it was the month prior. Last year, they hit the quota in June, which means after June, they wouldn't have to pay the take this waste back. So what we're going to do again is try to advocate on the voice of 2 counties to change a lot of those regulations to get e-waste collected every day for a full year on a routine basis across the 2 counties. Hopefully that is going to help our town and all of the others across, and hopefully have zero cost.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Any questions for Dave? Thank you. Kathy, would you know for the record that all members are present? We do have a set of minutes from the meeting on March 9th. Does anybody wish to move those in for approval?
So moved.
I think I heard Gil first. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Randy. Anything on the question? Any changes anybody wishes to make? If not, then all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved. We do have a bill pay. The total is $232,611.15. The voucher numbers are 2015-0292 through 0414. Does anybody wish to move these in for approval to pay? Okay, I have a motion by Larry. Do we have a second? Second by Art. Anything, any bills that anybody wishes to hold or question? If not, then all in favor of paying these signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved. Highway, Paul Sigmund.
We had the patch crews out. Basically, if you see them going by small holes, because I want to save that for the hot blacktop instead of using the cold patch, because it isn't a perfect fix. If you see a hole that looks like it's going to hurt a car, please call my office. We'll fill them in. We can get them as soon as we know about them. Or if we have crews out that regularly look for them. They're saying it's going to get some rain coming up here. If you have drains in your lot, and you can now see them in 3 feet of snow, some of it melted, clean your drain tops up. It'll help you out in the long run as far as water in your yard. And the drainage crew met, or the drainage committee met 2 Mondays ago. Get ready to get started on that. As soon as we get the frost out of the ground, we can get moving.
Okay. Anything for Paul?
Yeah, on the drainage, Paul, one of the items we talked about was some of the flooding. I think the state put signs up on Walk and Pierce and Ward Road. And I think the drainage committee discussed maybe petitioning the state to fix some of their drain tiles on Ward Road. Well, do we need to help as a town board to do a motion, or is that something that you want to hit up first, or?
We started working on that maybe a year and a half ago. And there's a gentleman from DOT who was gracious enough to come and visit with us at the drainage meeting. And he is working on trying to convert the drain along Ward Road from 18 to 24 inch, if I recall, starting at Walk Drive and going to where the creek crosses at Connell's house. That would be a big help if that was nice and clean and flowing. That's probably a 50-year-old drain, and it had major headaches last year. They did go in and they cleaned it last year, which did allow it to flow last year, but it still backs up. It's not enough.
Yeah, it needs to be upsized. We upsized our pipes down the road where it crosses underneath Pierce. About 3 years ago, we put larger pipes in there. Now it's just a matter of their section of pipe, and you can't just go into the state and start digging their road, their pitches out. They have certain rules that they go by. So as far as us going up and doing the job, I don't think that can happen. But we can do pressure in the state to see if they won't come out and fix it. I mean, they gotta be getting sick of coming out and putting up signs every time they get.
Well, it's a lot. I mean, they're probably doing that 4, 5, 6 times a year just for that one intersection.
I make sure I call every time.
Yep.
I figure the more they get sent out there, the more, sooner or later, they're gonna get sick coming out, they have to put up signs.
Yep.
They know there's a problem.
Yeah, that's also part of our drainage study. That's one of the several things that we've mentioned in the drainage study that we need to take a look at.
Wouldn't you submit a bill to the state for your people going out there to put them signs up?
We don't put the signs up, we call the state and tell them whether they have to come put the signs up.
They put them up?
Yes.
Of course, by the time the signs are up, quite often the road's gone back down. Such is life. Anything else for Paul? Thank you.
No, there was one question in the back.
Go ahead. Cosette?
Yeah, Paul, my daughter would like to, she lives over on Grady. When are the chipper trucks gonna start up? And you know it's early, but she just needs to know.
I'm hoping to have it started up middle of April, end of April. Right now, there's still snowbanks on the side of the road, a lot of stuff's still frozen, and that's why we haven't started.
But she just wondered. Thank you. Paul, I saw you were in our backyard this morning.
Taking a look at what we gotta take down back there before we start digging up that ditch. Water was flowing actually nice down that creek. I mean, it needs a little cleaning, but mostly trees. Not so much the dirt that's in the creek, it's all the debris and the trees that have fallen in through the years.
Rich, how's water sewer doing?
We're happy spring is here, but somebody could order a little warm weather to go.
Working on that. I'll get it for you in a couple of days, okay?
Still working on a few frozen lines around town, but for the most part, we've caught up with it.
Got a big one on the boulevard.
We've got a little leak going on the boulevard right now, so my crew's out there tonight with it.
Any news?
Haven't heard from them yet, so no news is good.
Or they're not there, yeah. Anything for Rich? Okay. Mike, how's recreation doing?
Good. Tomorrow night, we got a Nerf night again.
Another one?
Yeah, we got, I think, 3 this month. Those have actually been a really big hit. I want to thank the Tribune for coming out and taking pictures if you saw the middle insert.
It was great.
Our whole centerfold.
Yeah, there was like 8, 10 pictures in there. It was pretty cool. And then Saturday, we have the Easter party at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. sharp. Easter bunny, bounce house, Easter egg hunt, snacks.
Now, last year, the Easter egg hunt was left behind. Is that coming back?
Coming back.
Good. Okay. Anything for Mike? Other Mike. Mike Clark, building inspector. Has anybody started building out there yet, or is it still too cold?
I actually had 2 walls, one this past week, last week, so, over on Brandywine. So then I see a couple different plans on my desk, so it looks like we'll have as soon as the weather breaks, I think everybody else is gonna jump in.
Anything going on with the Summit Mall? Have you got any permits on that?
Nothing for the mall. I did hear that there's some progress, I think, on the electrical situation. I think that's been worked out. I've been driving around to see if the new pads are in there, but nothing yet as far as the transplant.
I had somebody call me about the Summit Mall, forgot about this, last week. They were talking about putting in like 15 ball dives over there. And they were looking
All right.
for their travel program. But I don't know where they were gonna do that. They needed a bunch of funding up front, and they allegedly got it. This is from another coordinator in town of Kansas.
At the Summit Mall.
There and in the property adjacent to it somewhere.
Well, between Plaza Drive and the mall, they proposed putting soccer fields in there years ago, but that land isn't real.
It would have to be level. That'll take time.
Outdoor fields in 3 acres. I was like, I didn't hear anything.
He may have bought that piece of property right next door on the other side of Lancelot.
Thing I could think of.
That, I don't think that's big enough for, you said 15 ball fields?
12 outdoor and 3 indoor.
Wow.
Yep, from under here.
Interesting. That'd be fun. Bridget's not here. Arlene's not here, which brings us to Tim Zuber.
Thank you. All we have on our agenda for you this evening is our ever-exciting planning board report. Unfortunately, it's been a little slow on the planning board so far this year, so I don't have too much to tell you, but our first meeting was on March 4th, and that was a special use permit for the Horizon Village Young Adult Facility. I've heard us talk about this, I think, a couple times before at previous meetings, but the applicant proposes to construct a 16,880 square foot young adult facility on Indicon Drive East. That's just north of the building that houses the Niagara County IDA. A 25-bed facility requires a special use permit to operate at this particular location. So the applicant had brought in a special use permit application, and the planning board scheduled a special hearing, or a public hearing that's required for a special use permit. They scheduled that for their April 1st meeting at 7:05 p.m., and that was all the action that was taken on that item and for that evening. The second meeting in March was held on March 18th, and the one agenda item for that meeting was a site plan at 2074 Lockport Road. This one is, again, another one that we've talked about before. This is the former Niagara Ministries building. The applicant proposes to house 2 contracting companies in that building, Gaines Electrical and Niagara Plumbing and Mechanical, and also a small attorney's office. The site plan is required because of it's a change in use of the property. No outside improvements are proposed. The project was determined to be a Type 2 action under seeker, which means that it requires no further review under seeker. The planning board subsequently approved the site plan with noted conditions for that site, so they are ready to roll. And that was our agenda that evening. And
if I recall, there was one document that was needed, Mike, before they could do anything, and that had to do with the actual, the signed document for the site plan was not stamped.
The survey, correct.
They were supposed to get that to you.
Yeah, that was basically the one major condition of the approval, is that they just needed an actual signed, stamped copy of the survey.
And Horizon Village, you're saying, is not approved yet? Is that what you said?
No, it is not. They are going to proceed with doing their site plan approval and their special use permit concurrently, which they can do. The special use permit process, again, requires a public hearing. So getting that permit in, getting the public hearing scheduled while they're still preparing their design documents. They have not yet submitted their full site plan package. They're still working on their grading and their drainage. So.
Just in case anybody's not aware of what that is, Horizons, of course, deals with drugs in the one building. They deal with soldiers and PTSD in a secondary building. This building is going to specifically be aimed at those upper teens and lower 20s group, because they feel that that age is underserved in terms of drug addiction and drug support. It would actually be a live-in facility for the upper teens, lower 20s, that starting to get into drugs, try and get them out before they get too far in. So it's certainly a service that is desperately needed in these days, in these times.
What's going on at Westby's Pub over here with all them dumpsters?
I was just talking to Mike about it beforehand. We don't have anything yet. They haven't asked for a permit to do anything yet, so we're not 100% sure at this point.
There is a new owner though, right?
We believe there's a new owner.
How many bed facility?
Pardon?
Horizon Youth, how many bed facility, did you say?
I believe it's 25 beds.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Over at Westby's, do we require a demo permit, Mike, or, I mean, they're tearing stuff out, or?
You know, the demolition permit is when you take the whole structure down. What they're doing is cleanup. So if you look in the inside of that building or in the dumpster, which I did, we've been over there a couple times and no one's been there. It's, you know, platforms, there might have been something that their tables were on. There's no structural work going on. We're trying to find somebody while they're still at, they're either doing it at night or weekends. We've been trying to get there to see what's going on the inside.
From the little bit you can see, does it look like a change in use, or does it look like another version of the same?
It looks like a version of the same. I think they've updated some of the equipment. The containers that are out there, it looks like it has some new furniture this time, some tables, chairs, and things. That's all I've been able to gather at this point.
Call that big number on the side of the dumpster.
He's advertising dumpsters.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Bob, let's go on to regular motions.
All right, the first motion is to approve amendment to the union contract and the town personnel manual with respect to clothing reimbursement, just to make it easier to administer. It's only making it easier to administer by having payment made by payroll.
Okay, I'd like to go ahead and make this motion.
I'll second.
Second by Randy. Anything on the question? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's approved.
Next, motion's to authorize payment of $600 for a shipping charge for the delivery charge of the hot mix transporter.
Okay, either of the liaisons want to make a motion on this?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Randy, second by Gil. Anything on the question? This was a hot mix that was approved, but we literally approved the exact amount of money, and there wasn't any money to pay for the shipping charge, so we have to add that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved.
Next motion is to approve the amendment to the computation for PIP fees for inspections only. The existing fee structure for design and plan approval would stay in place with the amendment of changing, if there's any place where it says inspector, it should say engineer.
Okay, does somebody want to make this motion?
Make the motion.
Okay,
So move.
Moved by Art. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Gil. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is approved.
Next motion is to authorize the Water Sewer Department to post for a water wastewater maintenance person, which we sometimes refer to as a water wastewater one.
I'll move that.
Moved by Larry. Do we have a second? Second by Art. Anything on the question? This is to replace a gentleman who is retiring. Then all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's approved.
Another request from the Water Sewer Department to post for an MEO position.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gil, second by Art. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that's approved.
Finally, there is one motion that we didn't have, and that would be to approve the plans for Fairmont Park as presented.
I'll go ahead and make that motion.
I'll second.
Second by Larry. Anything on the question? It'll be nice to move this project along, finally. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is also approved.
That's it.
Okay, that takes care of regular motions, which brings us to board member items. Councilman Hellwig, anything going on?
There was something in Bob's package that we didn't discuss, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
The GMD development abandonment. Is that something we wanted to hold on, Bob, or
No,
is that something we have to act on, I guess?
I think we can.
If they want to sell it to another.
No, it's you know what I think what we'll, and I think you're right. Let's get that
Because
approved.
if you look on the town maps, it's probably showing up as a paper street now, and we probably.
It's actually in. What this is there is a stub road off of Moyer Road. I don't believe that it's big enough to be built upon. It's a 66-foot right-of-way, but the road is not going to go in, and it's not owned by the town. I think it's still owned by the developer. Doesn't make any sense for him to own it. So the neighbors who have adjoined have requested permission to purchase it. So I think we would have a motion to abandon any interest that the town might have in that potential right-of-way and authorize the owner of the lot to convey it to the adjoining property owner.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. All right.
The lengthways?
It runs from Moyer
Over to Brandywine? Over to Timberlake?
I thought that was left too for possible another exit.
That's what I questioned.
Out
Is
of
that
that
egress for
subdevelopment.
something else? You gonna landlock something?
That's why it's a 66-foot
There it is right there. It is smaller than.
All right, maybe we should get a report back at the next meeting from the engineer, the water sewer department, and the highway department, and so we won't make that motion tonight.
Okay. Larry, anything else?
Yes. I know there's still snow on the ground, but I gotta start this process early. This will be our 24th year of cleaning up Liberty Drive. And my little buddy Art Croning's not here to help me, so Paul, you're gonna be the man again this year. And we're looking, Paul, if you can check with a couple of your guys in your department, either April 25th or May 2nd. I think last year we did it the last Saturday in April. It's hard to believe.
Second was the other day?
May 2nd.
This is with the Cub Scouts, right?
Yeah. And it's hard to believe this is like 4 or 5 weeks away. Usually we gotta...
I think you've been there the last 4 years.
I know you have. And it's a big, the last year I think we had the most scouts we ever had, and it went really well. So this will be our 24th year doing it, and I know for the drainage stuff we do in the town, I think for that stormwater, it's one of the items they list in there is that the Cub Scouts are helping they clean the drainage arterials and keeping things clean. So it's they get their community service award and they're doing a good deed on a street that's not real busy too. So
I'll meet with the Cub Master Wednesday. We have a meeting and I'll meet with them then.
Okay, great. The other thing I want, Kathy, you have a report. I talked to you earlier on the website. If you want to make a small announcement on that.
Yep, we've been working with the people from Civic Plus. They've met with each of the departments. The departments have provided input. We're in the process of uploading photos. We have somebody coming in to take some new photos, and they're working on building our new site. And we're looking forward to it going live, which is going to have, I don't have the exact date, but at the end of May. They're going to roll it out, we're going to look at it, we're going to tweak it, so by June we should have a new website.
Good. I was just talking earlier before the board meeting, Mike, it'd be really neat to put something in there about the fireworks so that, get yourself, maybe get your secretary to work on. Yeah, that'd be really neat to have, we're going to be able to use that site and put more stuff on there than we've ever had before.
Yeah, there's notification, people can sign up. It's very interactive, and we're going to encourage residents to use that. So it'll be very exciting and very useful for everybody.
Yeah, a lot of social media will be on there, like people, the softball games, baseball games. I think when Recreation says we have a rain out at 2:30 in the afternoon, as soon as they put that on the website, it will social media, Twitter, text, Facebook, it'll send out messages so that they're not getting 100 calls.
Go to the website and put your email on there, and then you can set yourself up to notify you for anything, whether it's snow removal, building, any department, any area in that department. You set that up yourself, and then like Larry said, if there's a game canceled, it'll tell you as soon as I put it up on the website. So I don't tell you.
So we're getting into the 21st century here.
Speaking of fireworks, Mike, are we all set? Is the county on board, and do we have a...
permit last week.
Okay. And how about the company to do the actual fireworks?
They're good.
We're good to go? Good.
Got their insurance like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
And I don't know if I need to do this as a motion, but I would like to, in the future, whenever we have bids, I know the last few times we've had bids, they only submit like 4 or 5 hard paper copies. And, count the number of people we have sitting up here. We have not enough hard copy for a number of board members. I would prefer, and not all of us want paper. I could use electronic, but some people do like paper. I would prefer that whenever we do a bid in the future that we insist that they provide electronic copy with any bid submission in the future.
How do you do a sealed bid?
They can put a CD-ROM or a jump drive. I've gotten bids before, and they'll just put a jump drive or a CD-ROM or a flash drive, or they'll put something in the bid packet that'll be the electronic copy. I don't know whether I need to do that as a motion or we'll just
It's a matter of remembering when we're doing the RFP itself, because it has to be in the RFP. So if Bob's doing an RFP, we have to remember to get the wording in there of how we want that submitted.
Okay.
Yeah, keep reminding me.
Exactly.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Or don't do any RFPs. Art Gerbeck, anything going on?
No, sir, nothing from the veterans or the fire advisory board this evening. Meeting for the comprehensive planning board is coming up this Thursday.
Your vets meeting, didn't you say the vets meeting is gonna be changed date? You're gonna go to the 31st this time?
No, that was, another,
That's a special meeting?
Special meeting, yeah.
Can I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
If Art's done?
I'm done, Larry.
The Greenway, I see that we had some correspondence from Bernie Rotella, our grant writer, and Bob O'Toole. It sounded like we had success, but I don't have the letters yet, but did we have success from the city of Niagara Falls and the Niagara Wheatfield School Board?
I got the one from the school, and I think I asked Fran to give everybody a copy. If you don't have it, I have it in the office. Basically, they're supporting the proposition, but they conveniently overlook the idea that they're a host community and don't have any money to be able to help us with.
But we wanted them to be in support of our project, right?
They are in support of our project.
Okay, and we need the same thing from the city?
Yeah, I've spoke with Tom DeSantis, and he was gonna get a letter out to us. I don't think we've got it yet, but I'll follow up with him in the next couple of days.
And then I think I asked Bernie whether or not we needed a letter of support, but seeing as North Tonawanda is not a host community, but because we're connecting to them, should we ask the mayor of North Tonawanda to get us a letter of support?
It certainly can't hurt. Everything would be helpful. Bob, can you contact Mr. Mayor Pappas?
Yeah, sure.
Or if you want me to, I can.
No, I can do that.
Okay. Sorry, I won't jump in again.
No problem. Councilman Doucette?
Nothing.
Councilman Retzlaff?
I have nothing.
Okay, I mentioned the letters. I do have a letter from Senator Rob Ort, to Joseph Martins, Commissioner of New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and I'll go ahead and read it. It's short. This is from Senator. I write today to request the Department's assistance as it relates to waste produced by anaerobic digesters. As a member of the Senate Committee on Environmental Conservation, as well as representing a district with a strong agricultural component, it's important to me to seek input on issues that impact both areas. One of the pressing issues facing both of these constituencies is that of the use of anaerobic digesters. These issues include both positive and negative impact they have on farmers, communities, and the environment as a whole. As DEC Commissioner, I am reaching out to ask you to conduct a study to analyze the safety of the commercial application of anaerobically digested waste involving sewage sludge. Currently, my district is faced with the possibility of anaerobic waste being spread on farmlands. As you can imagine, this proposal has supporters, but also comes with a significant number of detractors. I'm sensitive to both sides, but it's become quite evident to me that more information is needed, and I call on DEC to answer these questions. I would ask the department to analyze the safety of the commercial application of anaerobically digested waste involving sewage sludge. Specifically, the study should focus on the effects of groundwater, the potential contamination of wells, adequate testing for any and all contaminants, short-term and long-term impact on farmland and animals, and most importantly, human health. And then he goes on, thank you for taking the time to give this consideration. Attached to that was a similar letter from Senator Gallivan, as well as a similar letter from Assemblywoman Jane Corwin. So they are working towards meeting many of the same goals that were brought up here many, many months ago. This, Julie, I don't think answers the question about the home rule, whether they are still working toward that end or not, but it does show that they are working for the same thing that we asked for, which is a lot more testing, and let's make sure, let's not go with our 1993 studies, let's get a 2015 study on safety and security.
And if I could get a copy of
know that we feel that there seems to be strong relationships between Quasar and the DEC, even based on the website where they have listed, you can see Quasar seems promotional, as well as things we faced while we requested FOILs being redacted. So at this point, I really, really hope that it works, and I'm happy that they're working on it. But I also hope in conjunction that they can support the home rule bill as well. And we told them, they were fair with us and said that they are working on the budget. So their priority is to get the budget done for the state, which I think is April 1st. And then after that, they will circle back with us regarding the home rule bill. So we're going to give them a little time. But I think that the more support we have for our particular situation here in Wheatfield and in Wilson, the better.
Thus the letters from the senator. We also have recycling, as you've seen in the paper in Niagara Falls. It's become a big issue up there, but it's a big issue for all of us. And there was an article out that showed that we were number 3 in Niagara County in terms of the amount of recycling that we do. We were, I think, the first of the Niagara County area to develop the larger totes and the bi-weekly pickup. Both because it does a lot of good for the environment, but it also saves you a lot of money in terms of tax. It saves us about $280,000 a year. So it's really good for us. But obviously, if we're number 3, we can still do better. So I'm hoping that folks will take a little extra time.
20th in the state.
Pardon?
We're 20th in the state.
Are we?
Yeah.
If we can still do, it doesn't take very long to put it in this bucket instead of that bucket. It's just a matter of being aware. And we're hoping that you'll take advantage of that. Rich still has a lot of larger buckets. If somebody's filling up their 65-gallon every 2 weeks too early and they can use a bigger one, see the Water Sewer Department and they will give you a 96-gallon bucket. I think we even agreed, if I recall, that we would sell buckets to people if they want a second one. If you need a third one? A second one is free?
Right now, they can either get a second 64-gallon or a 96-gallon.
Okay.
I
Yes,
heard
Paul.
on TV that the city of Buffalo was only at 11% on recycling.
We also are at the forefront of the e-waste. I think we were the first one to go to the e-waste in Niagara County as well. And we do have a pretty good program going. Rich's people do a great job of making that happen. That's another discussion I'm about to have, but Paul, you had your hand up.
When they figure that all out, that we're third in the county, does that include all the newspaper recycling that gets done by the nonprofit?
Who knows? I don't know.
If they're just figuring what Modern's making, I might be surprised if the numbers are a lot higher. You figure all the dumpsters full of newspapers.
Yeah. Well, I think we do a good job. I think there's an awful lot of people that are filling that bucket every 2 weeks. But if it's stopping you, if size is an issue, we can react to that. We can give you a bigger bucket or more bucket. If it's just a matter of just keeping our minds awake as to what goes in what, it's good for everybody. It's good for the goose and it's good for the gander to let's go for number 1. Let's do even better. Speaking of e-waste, at the last meeting I brought up the possibility of signing a new contract with Sun King. Don Tim had negotiated a little bit better deal for the towns, not just this town, but all of the towns to jump on board with Sun King. It's not something where we have to be on for 2 years or anything, but it would save us 10 cents per pound. We're currently paying 20 cents per pound for electronic waste of CRT televisions only. That would drop to 10 cents per pound, so that would cut whatever our cost is in half. There are other issues, there are other items that they charge for, such as fluorescent light bulbs and regular light bulbs. That would stay the way it is under the new contract, but if you allow me to put my signature on a piece of paper, we can save a few $100s a month in e-waste. It's no more work, it's no change other than just cheaper.
You need a second to that motion, Bob?
That's my motion.
I second.
Moved and seconded. Anything further on the question? All in favor of signing this contract, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, gentlemen, thank you for that. That concludes most of our meeting. We do have a meeting April 6th. The regular meeting will be 7:30, but we're going to have the next meeting on Rose Court, the public hearing on Rose Court, continuing at 7:15 on April 6th. With that, we'll open it back up to the floor. Anybody on any subject?
Have one other thing to say on the letter, and I'm grateful that they wrote that letter. So I'm really glad that they wrote the letter. I just wanted to say, though, in terms of trying to appease all the constituencies, I'm sure it's difficult, but at the end of the day, right now in Erie and Niagara County, there are two farmers that want this, one in our county and one in Erie County. So the constituency, it seems like there's more people that don't want it, and then maybe it's something more about principle than the number of farmers that want it. But based on the usage that's been presented by Quasar for this type of material, there's more farmers, fruit farmers, for example, and dairy farmers that can't use it than can use it. So.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else on any subject?
I do.
Kathy?
This year, the Niagara County Veterans Service Officer is going to be in Wheatfield on May 12th. So we have, about 6 openings. So anybody who is a veteran or a family member who would like to see what benefits may be available to them or their family, please call my office and schedule an appointment and to meet with the county officer. He was here last year, and everybody who met with him said he did a terrific job and was able to find some money for some people.
Excellent. Okay, if there's nothing else, then Larry, I'll entertain your motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying